And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle, and I'm Rick Trader. And we both are coming to you from the My Pillow Studios and My Store Studios of the AUN TV network, no matter what Sharon's background says. And Sharon, we do have our first guest of the day with us, and please make that introduction.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Jim Pfaff, who's the president of the Conservative Caucus. Jim's political career stretches over 3 decades. He's also served as the chief of staff for the Colorado House Republican Caucus. He also served as founder and executive director of Americans for Prosperity of Colorado, president of the Colorado Family Institute, and a national representative for the Family Policy Councils at Focus on the Family. Jim served as chief of staff for 2 different congressmen, Congressman Tom Massey and Congressman Tim Hulskamp. Jim, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, here we go. We're right in the last 2 weeks of this election. We've got some really serious things coming in. They're saying that Trump is ahead in the battleground states for early voting, which is really a surprise. Being in one of those battleground states here, Nevada, he's ahead here even. So that gives us some optimism. What do you think that does to the Harris camp?
Well, it puts them behind. I was listening to some folks recently and I happen to agree with them that it may be getting to the point where there's no way for her to catch up. Keep in mind, in these early, I want to eliminate early voting around the country, okay? But that's where we're at right now. And one of the reasons I despise early voting is that if things change last minute in a campaign, one way or the other, then you can't make up for it. I remember a friend of mine back in 2006 was running for Congress. He was running for a primary. There was a truly lying hit piece that hit him before it could be very clear what the truth was, and without him getting enough time to do it. And he was already 4,000 votes behind because people voted according to that based upon what was put out there. And it claimed he was against homosexual marriage, and it claimed that he was for it because of what someone said. Anyway, the point I'm making is that you don't have a chance to catch up and clarify what's going on. Now, what's happening right now is that Donald Trump has had a fantastic month in October, really showing people that they're going to get the same thing they got 4 years ago. Kamala Harris has been tanking during that whole time, and we're finding out she actually is going to do exactly what Joe Biden has done. She has made no distinction in her policy. She said it explicitly even, and all these votes are coming in. Combine that with the fact that unlike 2020, Trump voters realize, listen, don't wait till election day. Just make a vote. You can have problems that can happen on election day, and bam, here we are. People got that message. They're banking the votes, and we're seeing that people do support Donald Trump. And Kamala Harris's campaign, which was cobbled together after Joe Biden dropped out. In fact, she's never received a primary vote at any time, having run twice for president, never received a primary vote in Democrat primaries, and now she's running, and she's paying the price for it. All that in combination has come together for me to say that this, and again, it's not determinative yet, but that this indicates Donald Trump we may be in for a big night. He may be in for a big night on November 5th.
Well, I think that most people, it doesn't seem to matter which side of the aisle you're on. They all say this is a pivotal election, that what happens in this election is really going to set the stage for actually not such good things coming forward. And that's, I wonder what they mean by that. What not such good things. Sometimes I even ask that. Have you heard that too?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got Democrats actually out there right now talking about how they're going to react, both if Trump wins the election and if he loses. So if he wins the election, you're going to see a mass retaliation on the left. Just like we saw, by the way, in 2020, or excuse me, in the year 2000, in the year 2004, we saw this when Donald Trump won in 2016. Democrats en masse went out to protest the election, particularly members of Congress. They, in every one of those cases, there were Democrats during the counting of the electoral votes on January 6th of those 3 years that were protesting it. Were not successful at it. They make a big deal about January 6th, 2021. Well, guys, you were already doing this. And by the way, it's everybody's right to do that. But that's one thing that'll be happening. It may take a more crucial turn if actually Kamala Harris were to win. But if Donald Trump wins, there have been really, I don't know if I'd say quite violent threats, but seem to indicate that there's going to be potentially mass protests. And there's a good reason to expect such a thing, no matter what anyone has said. These people make the most audacious claims against Donald Trump. To the point that just today, Kamala Harris is out saying he's literally Hitler. And they're throwing out this tape of former Trump chief of staff for a brief period, John Kelly, making the claim that Donald Trump said he wanted generals like Hitler, which I don't even believe Donald Trump said. And anything alluded to is totally twisted and taken out of context. I doubt he ever said it at all. But that's the kind of stuff. You know, a campaign is losing when it gets desperate. And this is how they're acting. So, yes, expect there to be very big concerns. The other thing that's happening is there was a report on a local Phoenix television station recently that said, yeah, voters need to be patient. It may take 10 to 13 days to count the vote, they're saying. And there's a long discussion about how their elections with all these vote centers are really stupid, that make it very difficult to count things quickly. But that's being let out there. So there's a big potential mess, none of which I can easily predict, that just may be coming to play. So we have to watch for it. We have to be patient with it. We need to pray. Everybody needs to pray about it. But yeah, there's something coming. They're already projecting it.
Well, and we're already seeing it. We started our early voting on Saturday, and already we're getting reports in that the machines are flipping the votes. So you vote for Trump, and it's flipping to Harris. So we've had that report. We've also had reports from one county, or actually two now, where people say they've received 2 ballots. Instead of just one mail-in ballot, they've now got 2 in their post office box. And then I received another report from someone saying that they're going to do a cybersecurity test nationally beginning on November the 5th.
Oh,
What
wow.
are, it just seems like there's rumor, there's some fact, but we're really nervous about this, aren't we, Jim? I feel nervous.
I have concerns. I have not heard what you mentioned about there being a cybersecurity test on November 5th, but it'll be very interesting if the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency, which we know now from the Twitter files and from the Facebook files, was directly involved in shutting down speech as a federal agency. If they come out and say, well, we've got security issues for this election, my question would be, why? You said we had the most secure elections in 2020 that we've ever had. And then suddenly this is a problem? I mean, how does it suddenly become a problem? If it was that way in 2020, there's almost no reason to believe that it would be in 2024. But again, there are issues with elections. So just to address one of the early things that you mentioned there, I'm getting double ballots. We've got to get rid of mail ballots. Now, I make a distinction. There are mail ballots and there are absentee ballots. The difference between the two is that, and traditionally in this country, we've had absentee ballots for a long, long time, probably nearly 100 years, where someone has to sign an affidavit under legal penalty of law to say, I can't be available to vote on that day, so they request a mail ballot. Those were very restrictive and frankly useful. And of course, mail ballots that go to military and government employees overseas. Those are all appropriate to do under proper guidelines and appropriate restrictions. A mail ballot is a ballot that's sent out unsolicited to anyone that happens to be on the voter list at the time that that ballot goes out. Those should never happen. And it's that type of ballot that you're addressing, Sharon, when someone says they get more than one. The other problem with it is that the voter rolls are not clean. So if someone moves and they have not changed their registration address quickly enough, they're going to get a mail ballot anyway. This is why another reason why we should never get it. And, you know, some of that can work itself out properly in the wash, and you can make the case, well, I just moved a couple months ago, and if, okay, whatever, it's still wrong. But some of those things aren't the problem. What really becomes a problem is when someone's moved out of state and they get a forwarded mail ballot. And then don't tell me the post office is going to be perfect on that. And if someone receives a ballot and they know they're at the wrong address, they should not vote, and they should go locally to vote as opposed to using that mail ballot. That's an illegal ballot. Many of those happen. This is why mail systems are such a problem. So by the very nature of having mail ballots, as we do in this country in so many states, you are going to, of necessity, get reports like the one you're talking about. Like, that's not some weirdo report. Oh, yeah, they're just making it up because someone thought it was wrong. No, it's absolutely happening. I mean, there's no way that it cannot happen. That's the nature of these voter registration rolls. My organization, the Conservative Caucus, is going to take this on in the next election cycle, beginning immediately after this election or very soon thereafter. And we're already telling our donors we want to take this situation on. And the minimum thing is to clean up these voter registration rolls. Mark Elias, the famous Democrat lawyer, we run Mark Elias elections right now. We don't run American elections. He has been very successful at pressing legal cases for the last 2 to 3 decades that have led to this messy situation that we're in. We want to take on cleaning that up. But for the present time, I just encourage people, absolutely use your ballot, get your vote in, make sure that you say who you want to vote for. The best security, ultimately the best security for elections is citizens. And then the very last thing you said very quickly is this: they're going to do this big test on November 5th. Okay, fine. You're doing your test, government employee, but we also get our test. And when you talk about these machines, and when campaigns or citizens say, I want you to show me transparently that your systems are clean and perfect, then we have the government pushing back and saying no. And there's already a big effort among Democrat lawyers that they are going to challenge any citizen or even any candidates who don't want to do this. Dominion Voting Systems just put out a statement on, and I put this up on my X profile. They put out a statement that said that anyone who challenges the elections and challenges our customers, which they define as the election officials, then they're going to aggressively go after it. And violating the whole purpose of elections. The purpose of elections is not to protect the election officials. It's to protect the voters, the citizens. They're going to fight the citizens, they said, if the citizens try to challenge it. The transparency is not there right now. There's a lot of challenges ahead. But the thing is, if everyone votes with their ballot that is concerned about this, then that's how you have your say in the short run. And then we'll work on these other issues in the long run.
Well, there's been so many out there that have been working for years on getting these rolls cleaned up. The law is in our favor. It is absolutely within HAVA and the NVRA that says these rolls cannot be in this kind of disarray. Yeah. And yet they are all over the country. And so your voice added to the many others that are working on this is a welcome addition, I think, to that. I know here in Nevada, we would like to decertify the machines because the reality is they're only accurate to 98%. So if you lose an election by less than 2%, which I have, the officials just say, oh, sorry, you're on the losing end of a statistical tie. We really can't tell you who won that election with any certainty. And so with the mail-in ballot, we've actually said, bring it on, because it gives us a printed ballot that we can actually recount and much different from what the machinery is able to do. Finally, just to say that you are exactly right with the mail-in ballot, though anybody who wants a mail-in ballot should be requesting one. And actually, wouldn't that be cool that anybody that wanted to vote had to actually register, request, and get their paper ballot and vote? So I think there are ways to secure our elections. We just, as the people, are slowly coming to the party that we need to be the ones doing it. And with that, we have another party we have to attend for just a few minutes, and that's with our sponsor. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Net Talk America, and AM FM 24/7. I'm Sharon Engel here with my co-host Rick Trader. We've been talking with Jim Pfaff, who's the president of the Conservative Caucus, about the elections and updates on those. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
And once again, we do want to welcome you back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. We share an angle, and I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the My Pillow studios, the My Store studios of the AUN TV network. Jim Pfaff is our guest this segment. He's the president of the Conservative Caucus. We're talking about election updates. And Jim, thank you for holding through that break. We really appreciate your time. And Jim, it's as you and Sharon have been talking, it's been a very, very good month for Donald Trump. Not so much for Kamala Harris. Jim, sometimes it's the little simple things that really, really get people to notice things. Donald Trump going to a McDonald's and working the fryer in the front window for 15 minutes. I mean, that one, I don't know, I don't want to call it a stunt, but that one little thing has kept the country talking for 4 or 5 days a week now. I mean, what a brilliant little move. What good publicity he's gotten from that. And also, I really do believe the addition of Elon Musk to his team, I mean, has been absolutely huge. Now, I wanted to get your take on these two events.
Well, I agree with your assessment, Rick. I will say this. First of all, I remember when the whole controversy started to boil up about McDonald's and Kamala trying to say that she worked at a McDonald's with really no proof of it. And I'm not going to question too much whether she did. I don't think she did, but maybe she did. I was talking about this with people. My dad owned 103 fast food restaurants at his height when I was young. Burger Chef, then Hardee's restaurants. And someone had retorted that Kamala Harris, man, I mean, and it was a tough job because making fries is really, really hard. And it's so funny because I worked independently outside of my dad's restaurants, running fry machines and cooking hamburgers when I was a kid. I also later did, for about almost 2 years, manage one of his restaurants very successfully. I was a general manager of one of his restaurants. And it's a very simple procedure. Like working in fast food's hard work, I grant that. Mm-hmm. But the fry thing is not hard to figure out. Then he decides he's going to go in to this. It was a brilliant move. And what it did in the back end of all that is to show the American people something they already knew, but it really put some meat to the bones of it. And that's this. Donald Trump's a billionaire, right? He's not an aloof billionaire. He's a whole lot like everybody. He really does care about the American people. Mm-hmm. He's not a haughty billionaire, but he has a different lifestyle than the average person. Even he knows that, and he'll point that out from time to time. But also he relates with the American people. She opened the door to one of the most brilliant campaign moves that any presidential campaign has ever made in the history of American presidential politics. And it made it so clear, and it was natural too. So he's in there talking with the employees, asking for the job as he did in the beginning, showing up at the fryer, listening to what. But notice this, he took direction from the employees, not even the manager, on what to do next with the fries. That was very evident. Then there he is passing food out the window, and people were excited to see him. So the brilliant and amazing thing on the back end of this is every left-wing nut job out there was like, this was a staged event, and all this kind of stuff. And I kept reposting all these things saying, yeah, keep talking about McDonald's, guys. Come on, let's keep talking about it. Because you can't break the visual, and you cannot deny who Donald Trump was in that circumstance. It was perfect. People could relate to it, and they could relate even more to Donald Trump. And yet they're all having a head explosion. Kamala Harris refused, we know now, to go do the same thing as some other McDonald's restaurant, which, by the way, would have totally shut down the visual that Donald Trump got if she had done it honestly. But she knew she couldn't do it because this aloof, arrogant politician who's never done anything in her life could not match up with a successful billionaire who could do it.
Well, Jim, I guess it was in 2019. There was a young couple that had a wedding at Trump's golf course up in North Jersey here. And who shows up at the wedding but Donald Trump? And at that time, I remember saying and posting, Donald Trump, man of the people. And I think the rallies, the continuous press events that he has had over the past 8 years really shows he loves that personal contact. He absolutely loves that personal contact. Conversely to Kamala Harris goes on Fox News for 15 minutes and her people are waving her off, just like an airplane that's about to crash into an aircraft carrier. I really think Bret Baier missed a moment there. I think Bret Baier should have said, Madam Vice President, in all due respect, your people want you to leave now, but this is your opportunity to talk to a different audience other than the audience that would normally listen to you. Please stay with us and answer the questions. I don't know. I just think that would have been a great move. But I don't know that she likes the public that much. She's certainly not around him. And again, Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk has been a huge, huge asset to his campaign. I mean, he's had others, Tulsi Gabbard and Robert Kennedy. But Elon Musk has showed up with his voice, with his power, with his money, and with X, as they call it now. I still call it Twitter. I wanted to get your take on it. Also, one other thing, if I could throw it in, Donald Trump's stamina.
Yeah.
Okay? For a man of his age, the stamina that he has, and he never looks tired, whereas Kamala Harris had to take off for 2 days to prepare for 2 interviews with Telemundo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really amazing when you look at. I'm going to slight disagreement with you on the Bret Baier interview because I think Bret didn't do that. He already knew what a disaster it had been, and he really asked her the questions that revealed who she really is. And as you just pointed to, she's done 2 more interviews. I wonder why she took 2 days off for those. Like, first of all, no one has seen him, but I happened to look at them because that's what I do, and they were pretty horrible. They were even worse than the Bret Baier interview. She cannot relate to people because she's been working her whole life not to. This is what most politicians do, Republican and Democrat. By the way, there's a lot of Republicans that don't relate. I worked around them, I know, and it scares me who we elect to Congress. But Donald Trump relating to people and then having Elon Musk, who also relates to people. Notice this. I don't know how closely people follow Elon's X profile, but the guy plays video games on there. And he's showing off a technology that they're developing and have available on X, and there's that part of it. But he actually plays this Diablo game, and he's got it. In fact, he was just doing it here in the beginning of the week regularly. Like he's a normal guy. Here's this brilliant engineer, very competent, capable engineer, who is performing some of the most amazing engineering feats. And in fact, that bringing the base rocket of the Super Heavy back 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago now, is maybe the greatest engineering feat in human history. It's pretty close to it if it's not. And here he is.
NASA hasn't been able to do it. It's
No,
something
and
NASA hasn't been able to do.
yeah, and he's doing it on a commercial basis. He's got contracts with the government. And, you know, one of the big arguments about NASA for so long and why the space program didn't thrive longer than it did, the Apollo program, was because, okay, we got there, so why are we spending all this money? Well, here's a guy doing it on a commercial basis, or mostly commercial basis, and he's running circles around NASA. Boeing looks crazy. But this guy, who's the wealthiest man in human history, and now, right at this moment, the wealthiest man in the world, relates to everybody. He also comes across as a normal guy. It also breaks this paradigm against billionaires who are always supposed to be bad people. Listen, capitalism works. Free markets work. When people are allowed to use their ingenuities to succeed, they will do amazing things. God gave them those skills to do that, whether they profess God or not. That's what was designed in our very nature as God created human beings. And Elon Musk and Donald Trump both in many ways have shown that. This inspires people, though. This is the other thing. You won't hear it talked about in the news much. But what these two guys have done in their business lives and how they react in the political sphere, really not leaving the comfort of the positions that they've created for themselves by doing such great work and wanting to save the country. That's really what America was all about. And there are enough people in this country who know the history of that, who can appreciate it. And that's why you're seeing some success for it, or what I perceive to be some great success in this particular political campaign.
Jim, I do this to you all the time, but do you have a couple more minutes?
I want to say this. I want to go back just a little bit to this voting thing and to honor Sharon a little bit with this. The reason we're going through what we're going through in our electoral systems is in part, and maybe even in large part, because of the fear that elites had when Sharon Angle almost beat Harry Reid and should have beat him. And in fact, I would say there were shenanigans going on in Clark County, and there probably were illegal. I mean, it might have been an early example of a stolen election. However that might have been done. Like, I don't know that they traded off ballots, and I'm not trying to prove any of that, but they did wrongly utilize the union workers in Clark County to take that election away from you, Sharon. And we're here in part because of that election. They know that normal folks who actually believe in truth and are willing to take on the system might have taken them over. And you were unable to overcome that. I think it was 571 votes. You were unable to overcome those 500 plus votes. And they thought they dodged a bullet, and they said to themselves, we're never going through this again. And it wasn't just your election that year. There were others that were quite remarkable from a grassroots perspective. That led next to the Tea Party movement. I mean, you inspired what the Tea Party movement did and what happened thereafter. And again, it was a big threat to them. They never wanted to go back there. And here's Donald Trump on the scene, coming to and capable of taking this on both financially and also through his courage. And I think we hopefully may be on a move where we really can take back this country. There are a lot of threats, and they're very scary. And I don't know how we maintain our liberties in the long run. I think there are real threats to it. But if there's any hope to it, it began back then, and it's continuing on now. Let's hope that Donald Trump wins this election. If he does, the game's not over. We've got a lot more
We
work
sure
to
do.
do. I know that through the Conservative Caucus, and if anyone wants to check us out at theconservativecaucus.org, they're going to find out what we're going to be doing with it. I'm appreciative for you guys continuing to put a light on this. We've got a lot of work to do together to win this battle, because it's not over when Trump gets elected. It, in fact, will not be over after 4 years of a Trump presidency. We've got to keep pressing thereafter. And I just encourage people, we can win this. These are proofs that we can. Let's just keep going from here.
30 seconds on the House and Senate. What are your feelings?
I will tell you, I'm concerned that Republicans may lose the House. And if they do, it's because of another battle we got to face, establishment Republicans that do stupid stuff constantly against the will of their voters. But we may just eke it out. We got some races they can win. And the Senate, I think, is almost a foregone conclusion that Republicans get it. And it may be even better than we think. I would say 51, 52. It may be better than that. We'll have to see, because Democrats may lose some.
I think it could be as many as 54 or 5, to be honest.
I think it's possible,
The way the polls are looking.
Yeah,
hey,
right.
Jim, I'll let you go. But Jim Pfaff, we appreciate you. Conservative Caucus, again, give out the websites.
It's theconservativecaucus.org. And then they can follow me, Jim Pfaff, on X, JIMPFAFF, and TC Caucus there as well.
Jim, thank you so much. Take care and God bless.
Thank you, guys. Great to be with you.
And you are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos. I'm Rick Trader, my co-host Sharon Angle. We'll be right back right after this break.